the thinking is most of those threats are going to turn out to be adversaries engaged in espionage. Identify what your new role would be and how geopolitically things would change. The fingers of one hand. The number of times that I liaised with other nations about UAP.
If you're trying to navigate market turbulence, why not set course to the Noble Gold Investments Safe Haven? With global uncertainty looming, your savings and retirement plans are under siege. But there's one asset that stood the test of time: gold. So unlock the peace of mind that comes with owning gold, the ultimate safe haven. And if precious metals are new to you, Noble Gold Investments will hold your hand throughout the entire process. Why? Because they have a team of experts who will guide you every step of the way to safety. Thousands of investors have sheltered their retirement savings with Noble Gold Investments. So don't leave yourself completely exposed to the markets right now. It's way too risky. With gold at an all-time high and looking to climb further, it's the perfect time to open a Noble Gold Investments IRA and secure your future along with a free gold bullion coin. Act now before it's too late. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com/Julian Dorey or call 877-646-5347. And if you do so right now, Noble Gold Investments will also give you one free 3-ounce silver American Virtue coin as well. Once again, that's www.noblegoldinvestments.com/Julian Dorey, or simply hit the link in my description below. So head there now and open up your own gold IRA with the only gold company I trust. But so when you were down there though, it was 4 years. Are you looking... Because UFO, we forget this, it can mean other things besides ET. It's literally meant to be unidentified flying objects, so that could be a drone, it could be something else. But I'd heard you speak before where you said the quote was, "It's Russian, not Martian," or something. Was that kind of the directive you got? Like, hey, we're probably looking at foreign intelligence here, don't worry about the aliens? Or were they saying, hey, just look for everything, and if it's alien, let us know?
The latter. Well, let me rephrase that. You can't really be conclusion-led in an investigation, because then you won't do a good investigation. You should be data-led. And so we were. However, just Occam's razor and common sense and the archive of previous files, somebody had done this job going way back to the 50s, tells you that, yes, you are more likely to be looking at misidentifications, sometimes hoaxes or delusions, and sometimes sensor errors, than extraterrestrials. But we didn't take the extraterrestrial hypothesis off the table. It was in the mix, and as I say, we tried to be data-led, so we tried to set aside preconceived views about whether aliens did or didn't exist, and whether, if they did, some of these UAP sightings were attributable to them or not. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. In pop culture, UFO equates to alien spacecraft, but that was not our view. Our view was, if there is anything unidentified in the UK air defence region, we need to make every effort to try and find out what it is, and to determine, is there a potential threat in any of this? And conversely, are there opportunities? And yes, when I'm saying threat, essentially the thinking is most of those threats are going to turn out to be adversaries engaged in espionage.
Because you're also coming into that desk at a weird time. Thatcher's leaving office, getting pushed out. She's been in there, I guess, for like 12 years, Margaret Thatcher. And we're also in 91. That's when the Soviet Union officially fell, I believe, right? I always get that mixed up.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the fall of the Soviet Union and then the wall coming down. The wall was 89,
yes.
I think. And so, 91, that sounds right.
Right. So it's at a weird inflection point. Not that people suddenly are like trusting everything about Russia, but you're not coming in there in 74. At like the height of the Cold War. No. But it sounds like that was still, if there was any foreign adversary that was going to be perceived as a threat, it was still like, look, Russia. and that's what it is.
And it was a real culture change. Look, I mean, the Falklands War happened before I joined the Ministry of Defence. But if you
like
had
83, 84?
81, I think it was. Okay. If you had said to someone in 1980, what do you think, where do you think, against which country do you think the next 3 wars in which the UK will be involved, what do you think those 3 countries are? I guarantee nobody would have said Argentina, the former Yugoslavia, and Iraq.
Right.
They would have said Russia and maybe China.
Russia, and Russia.
Yeah, Russia. Yeah, and absolutely. So you're right. It's an interesting question because it was a pivotal moment in all our lives, but particularly for anyone in the Ministry of Defence, because you had to do this narrative flip. And for a while, there was I mean, only half serious, but a sort of, does this mean we're done? Can we pack up and go home? I mean, I'm exaggerating, but there was this sort of struggle to identify what your new role would be and how geopolitically things would change. And there were some, I think, misguided, as it turned out. But, for example, the armed forces found itself getting in increasingly to things like counter-narcotics and even the fight against organized crime, which were arguably more properly, I think, the provenance of other parts of government. But that's another story.
Yeah. We'd go down a rabbit hole on that one for sure.
Yeah.
But to keep you on track with your career, what was going on, when you go to a desk, even before you went to that desk, when you were working as a briefer, I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's not the kind of job where you are coordinating with other governments, say intelligence or defense services, as much, right?
No, those jobs were more flying solo type. You would reach out to the various subject matter experts, get the raw data in, and then you would sit at your desk, read everything, try and really mentally digest it, and then try and find a way to take all this large, complex data and boil it down to the key issues and then make a recommendation for the senior people that you're briefing and say, this is what the issue is. This is the background to the issue. These are the various different opinions and key facts. And this is the recommendation for the way forward.
So the question is then, when you got to the UFO desk, I'll just call it that for people following out there, did that completely change and now you are discussing a lot of things with, say, American counterparts, French counterparts, and allied governments, or is it still very much this is an internal British project and we're going to keep it to ourselves?
It changed not with the foreign engagement because there was very little for a number of reasons, and we can get into this.
Please.
The British government, like a lot of governments, was very, very ring-fenced on this. You would think, and common sense would say, hey, look, this is a global phenomena. Shouldn't we be at least talking to allies?
Sure.
And finding out what adversaries know, for example. But our brief, our remit was very narrowly defined. So, for example, somewhere in the terms of reference, it said, investigate any sightings within the UK air defence region. So we had no jurisdiction, no legal remit to, for example, investigate a UFO sighting in French airspace. Now, that's not to say that you couldn't say, well, look, couldn't what the French are doing and have found out inform our own investigations? And absolutely, we should have been doing more of that. But I can probably count on the fingers of one hand, the number of times that I liaised with other nations about UAP through the embassies.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
No. And it's a problem. I mean, fast forwarding after I left the Ministry of Defence, in 2010, I attended a Royal Society discussion meeting in the UK about UAP, or rather more focused on the scientific search for extraterrestrial life. And the then director of the UN Office for Outer Space Affairs, the Malaysian astrophysicist Dr. Mazlan Othman, was there. And some people were saying to her, shouldn't the UN take a coordinating role with this? And she's like, yeah, well, if you come to us with consensus, fine. But A, that wasn't going to happen. And B, it was fairly clear the UN didn't want that role.